Welcome to Media 3.0. I'm Shelly Palmer, and I'm here with Lydia Loizides and Joe Laszlo, and we're talking about something that nobody thinks is important except us, which is the present future of wireless technology, living in a broadband cloud, Wi-Fi versus WiMAX, GPRS, or maybe even an Edge EVDO world. If you don't know what those acronyms mean, you're not alone. Plenty of people don't. But what's happening, obviously, according to the FCC and mythology that is being embraced by all, on February 17th, 2009, America is going to give up its analog spectrum and we're going to become a digital TV world. And on that day, the digital spectrum will be available for all kinds of people to do all kinds of stuff. Like what, Joe?
Well, compete with the wired broadband monopolies, so-called wired broadband monopolies, cable operators and phone companies maybe. Deliver cable-like experiences, video on demand, over the air to people's TVs throughout the land. There's no limit, really, in terms of media and communications capabilities.
For me, it's persistence. I mean, it's really what you are delivering on is the idea of persistence and being connected 24/7. You walk into your house, your phone switches from one network to the other. You know, you walk out of your house, you switch from another network to another.
We're never going to be able to escape.
Pros and cons.
Making,
pros and cons, but yes.
Making me what the Wi-Fi system on the bridge of the Enterprise was. Captain Kirk had that all together.
No.
Just tap the chest, do the thing, get the communicator going.
But you'll also see, I think what will be interesting is that, you know, push it out to, I don't know, 2015. What you're looking at is a real interesting way to finally think about how to push information at any level, whether that's going to be video or audio or text-based information, literally blanket it from one edge of the nation
now,
to the other.
there are people who would argue that theoretically, with GPRS and good old-fashioned wired to Wi-Fi routers now, you could really mimic that environment. You go to the store of the future, there's RFID tags, you pick things up, you put things down. People could mimic this now, but it's interesting what will happen.
Cost and scale.
Yeah, it's interesting, the cost and scale. It's interesting about what would happen. People like Crown Castle, SES Americom, NextWave have invested fairly heavily in spectrum, and you're going to see some infrastructure that's going to challenge the multi-billion-dollar infrastructures of both cable and telco coming up. So the question is, what are the economics of that, and how does that impact consumers? Because ultimately, the consumer is going to vote with their checkbook. Is it convenience? Is it, you know, does it cost me less? And is it everywhere?
Well, I mean, I think that the one thing to consider also is that if you look at where broadband penetration has occurred and where it hasn't occurred, if you look at it from demographics, you look at it from ethnic background, you look at it from rural and urban, there are still underserved and under-penetrated areas based on two things: price and availability.
Right.
You know, I mean, that's really it. Price and availability in urban markets has always been an issue. You are the cable incumbent, you are the teleco incumbent. Certain portions of urban areas are just not that attractive. Higher default rates, you know, far too expensive, you know, all of those issues. When you start to see that come down, you know, you're going to start to see that uptake. So I would argue to that price will actually be the big determinant in terms of how quickly it'll go.
I don't see, today, I get unlimited minutes for my $40. 10 years ago, I got 40 minutes for my $40. It's just the same $40.
Sure.
It's just an exponential increase in bits that they're giving me for the same money.
But that's because there's an exponential number of people on the network.
So am I getting more buckets of bits in 3 years from now? Are they just going to give me bigger buckets of bits for the same money? And if that's true, where does this wireless world lead me? I have bigger buckets of bits. It seems like lower profit for the infrastructure guys and more opportunity for the over-the-top services providers.
Well, I think from a services perspective, it's a far more attractive offer to services, but that doesn't mean necessarily, if you looked at what cable was 30 years ago as a cable operator and what a cable operator looks like today, they're fundamentally different businesses. They're not just a dumb pipe. So those guys aren't dumb pipes either. They're going to have to figure out a way to become relevant inside of a commoditized distribution channel, right? Because that's really what it is.
Absolutely.
And what services you're going to lay on top of that to actually generate the revenue, whether or not that's incremental.
Yeah, and it's really interesting too to think about, you know, is this going to be provided by one company or several companies in competition, right? I mean, if Verizon wants to provide Fios plus their EVDO service in a nice bundle, that's arguably a really good thing from a consumer's perspective, because it's the easiest, most seamless way for all the stuff I want to really be able to follow me. It's a slightly different matter if you talk about a wireless only kind of pure player, someone like a Clearwire growing up who who is trying to compete head to head with cable and the telcos. It's possible, but I think the latter is a harder road.
proposition.
Well, what's basically going to happen is in February 17th, 2009, we're going to learn an awful lot about the future because, by the way, it's only a couple of years away. So think about that. For Media 3.0, I'm Shelly Palmer along with Lydia Loizides and Joe Laszlo, and we'll see you next time.